Well, the fiscal crisis seems to be coming down hardest on our school children in this state. It seems to be the weaker people politically are the easier people to cut from. So our school children are expected to lose 16,000 school teachers next year in New York State because of the cuts in state aid to local education budgets. And this is just inexcusable. Like I've pointed out elsewhere, the state fiscal crisis is contrived. The state had the money and gave it back to Wall Street, just the stock transfer tax alone. That was $16 billion. There's a $9 billion deficit. If you kept the stock transfer tax instead of rebating it to Wall Street last year, it would be a $7 billion surplus and the schools would be funded. So funding is one issue, and the state is under mandate because of the campaign for fiscal equity cases to provide enough funding to provide every child in New York with a basic education, as our Constitution, our state Constitution says. And our state government's not fulfilling that obligation. So that's the first thing we need to do. Meanwhile, the state is being bullied about by federal education policy, which is based on high-stakes testing, privatization in the form of charter schools, if not vouchers, and attacks on teachers and their unions. If you want to have a good education, you want teachers and good people to come into the teaching profession. But if you attack their job security and their pay, good people are going to go elsewhere where they find more job security. So that is counterproductive to good education. And all the curriculum changes at the charter schools, there's no reason why we can't do that within our public school system. What a charter school does is for every student that leaves, takes that money out of the public school system. Public school system still has the same overhead it had before, the same buildings and grounds and staff to support, but less money to support it with, because the student that left for the charter school, the privately run school, the unaccountable school, in terms of public resources, they took that money with them. But the state caved in to federal pressure to double the number of charter schools we can establish in the state, and we find that hedge funds are behind this because they're finding ways to finance the charter schools and then put the charter schools in a bind by jacking up their rents. We've seen that in Albany. We've got lack of clarity about as to how the money is spent in some of these charter schools. We have studies out showing they don't perform any better than the public schools. In fact, slightly worse, according to the most comprehensive study done out of Stanford University that was published earlier this year or late last year. So right now, our public schools and our teachers are under attack, and we've got to defend them, and we've got to make sure they're fully funded. In the Green Party, that's where we stand. And we're not going to join in on this attack on the schools and the teachers, because that's not going to improve education. It's just going to open the door for some private interests to get their hands on a public revenue stream that ought to be for children's education, not their profit.